going to take a look at a very old Neil Young song, one he wrote in the early 60s, put out on his first album in 1969 but he claimed he wrote it in about 4 years earlier. No, 4 years before 68, before the Canterbury House. Anyway, this is from Neil Young's first album, The Old Laughing Lady. And it is another example of his kind of more complex songs. Has basically a verse, then there are four of them, but interesting interludes between each one. I just played two of them right there, two of the little interludes, or two parts of them. And in many of them, he just improvises. So we will talk a little bit about that too, but every performance of this is quite different. So I'm going to stick mostly with the studio version. It's almost 6 minutes long, I think. And we're going to talk about the chord progression. Now he calls this tuning D-modal. It could sort of be considered D-modal, but what it does, it's double drop D. We've got a D in the bass and a D on the top. Both E strings are down to D. And that makes for a lot of interesting sounds. Just by moving a note or two, a couple of notes around. And much of this song is played with a D shape, played with but leaving the first string open. So I've got notes on the second and third strings, just as if they were D, and then moving it to a few different spots, playing some G chords, playing some minor chords. We hear this in The Loner, uses the same tuning. He does this a lot. A lot of his tunes, oh, by the way, from the same album. Anyway, we're going to walk through first just the chord progression, but then some of the different interludes that he has that have some unusual time changes in them. And just we'll talk about some of the experimenting that you can do to make it your own. And I really encourage you to listen to a couple of live versions. The one from the Canterbury House from his album called Sugar Mountain is one. And then also the live version that they show at the end of the movie Heart of Gold, where it's much more recent, and it's a whole side shot of him. You can't see anything he's playing, but you hear him mess around with a lot of stuff. Fascinating. So those two live ones are way worth your time to check out. But we'll be talking about the studio version of The Old Laughing Lady. And one of his tunes, he has a lot of songs about various addictions and hazards in life. This one seems to be one of the early ones. He mentions Pretty Peggy in this. He had an earlier ballad called The Ballad of Peggy Grover, who was somebody that lost the battle, I think. Is not his later wife, Peggy Young. But, okay, enough background, enough foreground, and over the next few segments, we'll be taking a look at Neil Young's The Old Laughing Lady.